Kia ora koutou again. I'm Martin Kane, and welcome to our fourth episode of the Netsafe series with Paula Wistrand. Paula, thank you very much for joining us again. We're going to look at bullying today and a bit of inappropriate content. Well, actually, we probably won't look at that, but we'll certainly discuss it. And yes. The Harmful Digital Communications Act, if we've got some time at the end as well. Look, I know from reading articles on media websites, social media, Twitter, whatever, there are people out there who want to cause problems. We call them trolls. I think bullying is an entirely different level though, but what a big topic. Go ahead.
It is a massive topic, and luckily we have the confines of the purpose, I suppose, of why you and I are sitting here, which is young people. So you've got, you know, trolls now. I mean, that's just all of society, and it always amazes me when you have grown humans participating in this behavior. But when we look at like I said, the purpose of these, which is young people, and we start talking about bullying, it is one of the hardest topics. It is one of the ones that we are most frequently asked about when we go to present. And people again want a magic wand. And there's not, just like real life bullying, there is no magic wand. But it's really good to understand the landscape and why it can be so much harder for young people when they are bullied online. If I go back to my understanding of being bullied at school myself, there was maybe 5 of us involved. It would happen at break times. I would go home and that would be the end of it. And between going home and getting up the next morning, I would have had an amazing whānau time. You know, my cup would be full and I'd go back and only a couple of people knew about it. Online bullying just escalates and has a way of becoming so big because it happens 24/7. There's no getting away from it. It can involve a lot of people really quickly. You know, you look at some of our young people who will have 2,000 followers on a social media account, and one sentence, one photo, suddenly 2,000 people are involved, and then someone else will share it. So it can go from being a really small thing to really, really big, really quickly. It's not just words and fists, again, which what we are probably understanding of. It comes in the form of photos and images, stories, reshares, and it can just become so big so quick. And again, it can happen at any time. And we talked earlier about keep your phones and stuff out of your bedrooms. For a young person to be into the safety of what their bedroom should be, to have an entire attack happening online while they're sitting by themselves creates another difficulty when we talk about online bullying. And it can take way, so it can happen at any time, it can happen in any way, but then it can also take many forms. So you've got fake accounts people might set up to harass someone. A big part of we don't talk about is excluding. So you know that all your social circle at school, everyone's part of this group and you've been excluded, you've been blocked, you haven't been invited. Embarrassing pictures, name calling, repeated unwanted messages, spreading rumors, lies. I mean, it's just a minefield for young people. And traditionally, our advice has been just block, just shut your computer, block, walk away, don't have them. And that's not working for our young people. They want to be included. So when you say block or shut down your computer, you're then actually excluding them from a whole lot of welfare and well-being as well. I talked to my daughter who's now 20, and she went through some quite horrific online bullying. And I said, what didn't I do right? What was, if you could go back and tell me how I could have helped? And she said, you acted like it wasn't real because it was online. Your advice was just block it, just walk away, just ignore it, it's not real. She said, but all those people I had to walk past at school the next day. So I think the first thing is really acknowledging that it is just as real, almost more powerful than, you know, that traditional type of bullying we see. How do we stop it? Again, let's watch what we model. You know, I've seen sometimes community Facebook pages and the adults on those pages, behave in a way that doesn't go with family values, that doesn't go with school values, that doesn't go with religious values. So let's talk about how the behavior we have to begin with. Use that opportunity again. Oh my goodness, look how this person's using the internet. Like, what do we think of that? And again, make that part of the plan. I know I keep going back to the plan, but just assume that your child will be bullied online at some stage. Give them the words, give them the tools and the power, and I'll talk about that, how Netsafe can help with that a bit later. But really just enable your young person that they have a line of communication, their privacy is really well intact, because that creates a network that you should feel pretty secure in. And we really talked about activate your allyship as well. Actively encourage your young person and yourself to make an online a really good space. So, you know, if we think for our older teens, and if we think about using pronouns, if we think about the content we share, if we think about all of that. So if I'm jumping online and I might, you know, have a level of diversity to me, I see my peers going, oh, wow, this is a really safe space for me. You know, I'm seen before I even start. So activating your allyship, promoting a lot of positivity, so that becomes young people's expectation online and not the trolls. You know, the trolls you talk about, you know, that pile-on effect where it's like, well, if every single one of us emails that one person or messages that one person, you know, which we call it a pile-on, which is just awful. But again, if your child has a safe space online, they've got their own community online, going, I'm going to shut that down, but go here because it's safe, creates a really different experience for them.
Yes, I can imagine it being a serious mental magnification, I suppose, from, you know, if you've got someone who's calling you names at school, maybe two people, that's two people, but even a young person having that happen to them on social media, they realise that it is all of a sudden everyone is going to be hearing this, and it's so much bigger, so much faster. That must be pretty awful for a young person. So yeah, you're saying, look, have those safe spaces as well online, you know, the safe groups of friends. You can have multiple groups online, but also that I suppose encompassing, you know, the family encompassing group that can, you know, take care of them during that time is really, really important as well.
Yeah, and also, you know, it doesn't all have to be people from the same school. You know, we have lots of different networks we didn't used to have. So having those groups that have got nothing to do with school, have got nothing to do with that. So if one of the groups fall down, your whole life hasn't fallen down. And knowing that you can go, actually, I can block it because I've got this, makes a huge difference for young people. Whereas if everything's all in one basket and that basket goes rotten, your world's ended. And that's what it feels like for them. Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, bullying, pretty bad. When do we get the police involved? Tell us about that Harmful Digital Communications Act.
Great. So happy to talk to you about the Harmful Digital Communications Act, because as an educator and even someone who worked with the ministry, I wasn't really aware of it until I took this job. And I just thought it's such a powerful act. It came into play at about 2015, and it came out of catching up with technology, basically, because there was starting to be a whole lot of online behaviour that was really unsavoury, but we knew it was unsavoury. Morally, it was like, oh my goodness, but there was no law. So Harmful Digital Communications Act, it's made up of 10 communication principles. They outline what a digital communication must not do. So ones like, it must not disclose sensitive facts, it must not be obscene, we must not incite people to harm themselves or others, we must not harass. So on this here, the podcast we're doing at the moment, there will be a link and you can download those, have a look. Talk to your young people about them, but when you do it in a real, this is here to support you. This is here so that if something's happening online that makes you feel real gross, you know there is a law to support you. So just make it a real pro-social messaging. The Harmful Digital Communication Act supports individuals, not companies, not groups of people. So that's that real individual focus. and it needs to sort of be proven that there was some harm caused. So we've got this act, what do we do with it? And that's where Netsafe comes into play. So Netsafe is the approved agency in New Zealand to work with the Harmful Digital Communications Act. What that means is we have a contact centre that is open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day but Christmas. Occasionally those hours change for professional development, things like that. And if you feel like there has been some online harm occurred, you can call us. You don't have to sit there and go, oh, did it break the act? Is it that bad? You don't have to make that decision. If you're in your gut, you're like, this is not okay. And that could be as simple as online shopping scam. You might get a text message saying there's a delivery. It could be, you know, financial scam, romance scam. It could be the sharing of intimate images. It could be inciting people to harm themselves. So anything, online harm, give us a call. Our contact centre will triage that. It may be you just need some advice and that's the end of it. Or it may be we go, actually, yeah, that really has breached the Harmful Digital Communications Act. We're going to work with you now to negotiate, persuade and mediate between the parties and try and get the content taken down and make things okay again. We have a really high success rate with that, sort of over 90%. If we don't have success in that space, that's when the police get involved. That's when it heads off to the courts. But one of the first things the courts are going to say is what happened with Netsafe. So it's that kind of expectation that online harm comes through us. But if online harm's happening in conjunction with other stuff, then police straight away, absolutely. We sit in the online harm space. So for young people, knowing the HDC and understanding that is a really empowering tool to know you've got that sitting behind you. So, you know, we talked about bullying. Another form of bullying is the sharing of intimate images, using that to harass people. That is automatically a breach of the Harmful Digital Communications Act. I think it might be number 8 from my memory. Yeah, so there's been a change in the law, which is really interesting, around sharing of intimate images. If you have an intimate image shared with you and you share on, you're breaking the Harmful Digital Communications Act, unless someone has given you explicit consent to share it. So, and what's also really interesting is consent cannot be given if you are under the age of 16. So that's pretty much probably almost of the audience we're looking at today. It doesn't matter even if they send something on and go share it with the world. They are under the age of 16, therefore there is no consent to share the image. We really advocate that the breach is of the person who does wrong with the image, not the person who shares it. If you've got a young person who is caught up in all the hormonal, socio, everything that's happening, and they make that choice, you know, it's the shame doesn't sit with them. The shame sits with the person who chooses to use it in a way that it wasn't given. So really installing that in your young people as well when you have those conversations, that if you are going to share that information, if we go back to the privacy conversation we had, how can it be used? How can it go wrong? Let's talk about worst case scenario. And let's talk about that with just sharing a photo of a carrot. Now think about that with all the information. So what we also talk to our young people about is screenshot. Take evidence, write down the URL, the web address. So if anyone is causing you online harm, take a screenshot, write down the URL, and then block, and then go start your plan. Go see your mum, go see your dad, go see auntie, uncle, whānau. And we also talk to young people, and if it's that bad and you are so whakamā, you're so ashamed and you don't know what to do, you can ring us, it's anonymous. And we're such a great place for you to start to go, this has happened, what do I do? We do nothing without consent. We do not share private information without consent. We don't act on it without consent outside unless we thought someone was going to cause harm to themselves.
So if a parent's at their wit's edge, child's being bullied, they don't know what to do, that call to Netsafe can be something that can put them on a path that will help them out. And if need be, it can head to that Harmful Digital Communications Act, but
That's our decision, not yours. So don't worry yourself with it. Just give us a call. Obviously, we don't want every tiny little bit of children's misdemeanor online coming at us. But if you really have tried and you've done all those things and you're at your wit's end and you feel like there's real harm being caused, absolutely give us a call. You can also call on behalf of as well. So if you've got a young person and they're watching a situation unfold and they're like, oh my goodness, this isn't okay, you can give us a call. We can give you advice, we can support. Again, we're not going to take action without your permission to do so. And knowing that Netsafe has this service, knowing about the HTC does take a bit of heat out of the situation, because it's not just no man's land as well. It supports the relationship between school and home, because if it is really that bad, it's not for the school to fix out. Give Netsafe a call, we can navigate it, and the relationship between school and home can sit with, right, how do we put support around these young people? How do we educate? How do we make sure they're safe, and the online harm can be dealt with in that space? So it does really support that relationship as well.
As a parent, Paula, I'm really impressed to hear that. It makes me feel a whole lot more comfortable that, you know, while I know a few things, I know that the first time that my daughter's going to be bullied online, I'm going to be an absolute, a mess. Just to know that, you know, when it gets beyond what I think is possible for me to deal with, there is Netsafe to fall back on.
Yeah, and really educating the young people, because when I work with them, I'll ask them a question, you know, is there a law about texting and driving? Is there a law here? And they all like, law. And I'm like, what about being mean people online? And they're like, there's no law. And you tell them, and you can automatically see a few sheepish kind of, and so as much as we do not promote the HTC as a form of punishment or anything like that, it's there to support you. People who might be inclined to be a little naughty online may be a little less inclined once they know that there's that sitting there as well.
That's wonderful. Hey, look, thank you very, very much for the series, and I think this is the last of the parents episodes. So it's been wonderful to korero with you, and I think we might be later on organising an additional one for teachers at schools that sort of follows on from this, with some of the things that are very specific to teachers and the education environment. So, hey, look, thank you so much for your time, and yeah, been great talking.
Thank you so much for having me. If any more questions come out of this, if we feel like we need another one, please just reach out. It's the difference we can make in young people's life if we get it right is just so worth the chat.
It's wonderful, Paula. Great, nice to chat, and we'll see you for the next episode with the teachers.
Ka kite.